working with the appropriate partners, actively lobby both the provincial and federal governments to develop and implement a plan to remove the trade barriers experienced by the beef industry and the majority of agriculture as a result of Canada's supply management policy, Zones 1 and 3.
Okay, do we have a mover for the resolution?
Also move. Brian Ed, Zone 3.
Thank you, Brian. Do we have a seconder? Brian, thanks. Would you care to speak to the resolution?
The person that made this motion would like to speak to his own motion that he brought to the floor. If that's allowable, please.
And that person is?
Stuart Thiessen.
Okay, the chair will recognize Stuart Thiessen to speak to the motion.
Thanks for letting me speak. I'd like to start with just a couple clarifications. My motion is asking for a plan to move forward on the parts of supply management that impact our industry. And frankly, that's the tariffs. I'm not asking for the dismantling of SM5, but as it impacts our industry, I think we need to speak up. I think as we enter into this, we need to respect that people have built industries around the laws that dictate supply management, and any solution has to work with that. I don't see us demanding tomorrow that they're bankrupt. That's just not fair. But why did I make the motion? It's in the world of politics, those who complain, those who speak up get heard. Those who are silent are sacrificed. And today, I'd say we've been very silent on this issue. In the Peru negotiations, we received poorer access for our beef than the U.S. did. Why? Because Peru wanted to send a yogurt product to Canada. And our government opted, instead of allowing that, to give us reduced access. So we need to speak up. In WTO in 2005, Canada made a late request for more provisions to protect sensitive industries, i.e. SM5. The talks broke down. Part of the reason the talks broke down was that request. So we are being impacted. We're now at the precipice of two very significant talks. The EU talks that Travis has talked about, as well as the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. We need to be heard. At the end of the day, we know there will be trade-offs when these negotiations happen. Politicians will go to the easiest, the cheapest political cost, and currently that is us, because we're not speaking up. I think when Canada enters into trade negotiations, we need to go as agile as we can, and we're not that way in agriculture. We fail the hallmark of reciprocity. We go to a partner and we say, hey, we want this, but we won't give you that. How many of you would let people run cattle across your pasture to get home if they wouldn't let you run your cattle across theirs? Same idea. I'm not saying at the end of the day this solves all the problems, but when we go to negotiations, we have to have everything we can so that if it does play, that we can make a deal. We make a deal.
Very good, thank you. Is there anybody speaking against the motion? We should have a debate against the motion first, maybe. Are you choose to speak against the motion? No? Okay. Go ahead.
Is this on? Arnie Cateson would like, Zone 5, would like to invite Albert Camps and Ben Walden to speak on the motion.
We will recognize one first. I'll recognize Albert Camp. Albert attributed on information purposes only, basically. And we will limit the debate between them to the speaker. Do we not have bikes and stands, etc.? Yes.
Okay. I can see where Stuart's coming from on this.
Yeah, just for the record, I'll take your comments as being, well, I can't think it was against the motion, it's supposed to be information purposes only.
Okay. We are seen as having no tariffs. Not many people know that our dairy industry has 5% of free and clear with no barriers except for health standards at the bottom end. 5% of our imports come into this country free and clear. The European Union sends $150 million worth of imports into Canada every year in dairy products. New Zealand sends $80 to $100 million worth. As far as the TPP, the U.S. has now announced they will protect cotton, sugar, and milk, which milk is something we would like to protect too. Every country has things they'd like to protect. Since the last 5 years, Canada signed 14 treaties, first with all the NAFTA countries, then bilaterals with Jordan, Colombia, Peru, Costa Rica, Chile, Israel, Switzerland, Norway, Iceland, and Liechtenstein, all with supply management on the table. Canada operates by letting products in which meet our standards. We don't like 98% melamine-free milk. We want clean milk. We want milk that has the same standards as ours. If those products from Peru met those standards, they were welcome to try for the 5% and compete with other products. But I think the big thing here is working as a cohesive group. We've done a lot of work with the beef producers. The milk producers have asked all of our producers to not ask for their refund. We've worked with you on intensive livestock working group, policy advisory group, straightening out the NRCB. We've worked at AFAC. We've worked at countless other things. Our delegates have put work into the beef projects as well, and I think together we're a lot stronger.
Very good, thank you, Albert. Actually, the delegate here, I missed your name, I'm sorry. Arnie. Yeah, Arnie, yes, Arnie. I'll take your comments when you spoke up as being opposed to the motion, and Albert was on information. So the debate is open. We can speak for or against. And please identify yourself when you speak.
I can get this thing to work.
Do we not have two mics and two stands here? Oh, I thought you were going to come up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Laurie Jesperson of Alberta Milk. You know, it's been interesting the last couple of days. Had conversations with many of the delegates here, and I heard both two different sides. You know, I've had a lot of good questions about this issue, but I've also heard a lot of, how would you say it, trade experts, so-called. You know, the beef industry here in Alberta has been suffering for quite some time because of trade barriers. And I'd like to read, or just to highlight what some of those are. One of them, going forward, is the ability of trading hormone-free beef with Europe. That is going to be a trade barrier. I've been told that there are hurdles that they can overcome to do that, but it is there. So that, you know, beef from the general population will not be allowed into Europe. The general population of cattle in Alberta. The cool legislation that we've been dealing with the United States, that has been a trade barrier and has cost us a lot of money. The value of the Canadian dollar has been a trade barrier. It used to be 65 cents or 66 cents at one time. Now we're looking at 98 cent dollar. That is a trade barrier. We are the richest, one of the richest countries in the world, and it's a little bit harder to deal with us. The biggest one that we have suffered from for the last 8.5 years is BSE. We continue to suffer from that. Yes, because of some of the trade negotiations that have gone on in the last 8.5 years, we are slowly starting to overcome some of those. But we still have not even reached where we were before BSE hit Canada. And if I go back to studying history, in the 1950s, foot and mouth disease hit Canada, and it took 13 years to recover to the same level of price level that it was prior to the foot and mouth. So we have done remarkably well hitting some of those same prices that we had prior to BSE. And some of that can be attributed to the trade negotiations that have gone on in Canada. And that has not at any time been at the risk of harming supply management. And as Albert said, Canada has had 14 different trade negotiations, successfully trade agreements successfully negotiated since 1986 and has put Canada as one of the top 10 trade countries in the world. Even this morning, in the CAMFAX report, it has been reported that Canada is currently the #4 exporter of beef in the world and #2 in the grain-fed beef sector in the world. Every country in the world has things that they are protecting, and there is no reason why Canada should be any different than any of the other countries.
Sir, I should remind you, we do have a 3-minute limit.
Yes.
And I'm already having people go off here, so.
Well,
Would you mind to wrap it up, please?
I will try and wrap it up. Representing Alberta Milk, we do not want to risk our relationship with Alberta Beef. We have always encouraged, especially since Bill 43, we have encouraged our producers to continue to support Alberta beef producers. We want to continue that relationship. We work with you in many areas of agriculture, and we do not want to put that at risk. But please don't force our hand. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Gene Brown, Zone 7.
Go ahead, Gene.
I'm not speaking for or against this with my comments here. I'm basically relaying comments that were made to me by dairy producers. I got several phone calls on these 4 resolutions to do with supply management. This first resolution, in Stuart's talk, he indicated that, this would be a stepping point, and these people had to be treated fairly, and they should receive some compensation. We're not trying to bankrupt anybody here, and I certainly share that sentiment. The producers I spoke to are very concerned that the one fellow that I talked to is young. He's just entering the industry. He has a huge amount of money tied up in quota. And he basically is concerned that, if this quota is significantly devalued or worthless, that he's done. And I certainly sympathize with that. I had fundamental differences with both gentlemen I spoke to on the supply management issue. But I did tell them that because none of these come out of our zone, that I would pass their comments on to the delegate body here, because they do pay check off, and I do represent them, and so that's basically what I'm doing here.
Thank you, Gene. The chair recognizes Bob.
Bob, Zone 2. When I read this resolution, I don't see anything about dismantling supply management. At the CCA level, we are encouraging the government to put everything on the table. I just see this motion as assisting that.
Very good, thank you.
Arnie Cason, Zone 5. Could I invite Ben Waldner to speak on this information only?
I think I would prefer to keep this within our delegate body unless, we've already got the rules a long ways on this one, because it should be information purposes only, and we seem to get rid of one side of some of the outside speakers here also. Is there any more debate on the motion, for or against?
John Beasley, Zone 4. I guess on supply management, we got to look at maybe we're 20 years behind the times here. Like New Zealand's eliminated their ag subsidies and support 20 years ago, and it wasn't without pain, but a lot of dead weight was cut out of their industry in general, and they become the most competitive ag exporter in the world. And we are doing quite well as an industry exporting beef. That doesn't mean we've achieved what we can, and I'm not about making the dairy industry or poultry industry or anything else suffer, but I think by moving forward with this, it's going to create greater efficiency, competition, maybe greater beef quality supply coming out of the dairy sector side of our beef industry, which is a big part of our beef production. So it's necessary for us to start to move forward on this, create a more competitive industry across agriculture in general. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any further debate on the motion? Yeah.
Just like the invite her to close, can I do that?
Yeah, basically I'll ask the mover to close first, which is,
I apologize.
or the second can close, either way. So Ed, Chair recognizes Brian as the second to close.
I'd like to close by letting.
Stand up and try, please.
Sorry?
Yeah.
My fault.
Yeah, the other gentleman has an excuse.
That's true. I'd like to close this argument by inviting Stuart Deason to close his motion.
Yeah, I recognize Stuart wants to go ahead. I would prefer if you close it, or one of our delegates would close it.
Okay, I guess to close this argument again, I'd like to repeat what Stuart said. This isn't about killing supply management tomorrow. This is about trying to get a discussion as to how to go forward, and that everything should be on the table when we are in negotiations with other countries. And I think that's really all I have to say.
Very good, thanks, Brian. Could I have somebody read the motion again, please? Then we'll ask the question.
Be it resolved that ABP and the Canadian Cattlemen's Association, working with the appropriate partners, actively lobby both the provincial and federal governments to develop and implement a plan to remove the trade barriers experienced by the beef industry and the majority of agriculture as a result of Canada's supply management policy, Zone 1 and 3.
Okay, the question has been called. All those in favor, please raise your hand and hold them high for the count. Those opposed, please raise your hand. Motion is carried.